here in Egypt?
Well, I think starting with Egypt, obviously your listeners are likely aware of the Egyptian military's crackdown of the Muslim Brotherhood, the removal of President Morsi, and now the arrests and the arrest warrants being issued for the the Supreme Guide of the Muslim Brotherhood, Mohammed Badi, and several key deputies as well as other key leaders of the Brotherhood in Egypt. Now, it's been about 60 years since we've seen this kind of crackdown on the Brotherhood in Egypt. The last was in the 50s, which led to the Brotherhood fleeing Egypt into Europe and the United States in the 50s. But I think there are some big differences today. Today, we know from a number of reasons, not the least of which is a 2010 poll, research poll in Egypt, but also a whole lot of other social and cultural indicators that the Egyptian people do want Sharia. Overwhelmingly, over 80 to 85%, want Sharia to be the law of the land. And so the question people would ask, well, then why are they overthrowing the Muslim Brotherhood and having them arrested? And I think that's a pretty complicated question, actually, but I'll just answer with a couple thoughts. Is number one is a perspective that I would encourage your listeners to keep. If you're in New York City in the 1940s and the Bonanno family is having a war with one of the other families, and you look at it, and the police look at it and say, oh, well, the Gambino family is at war with the Bonanno family, so we know the Bonanno family is bad, so I guess that means the Gambino family is on our side. Nobody would look at you like you were sane, because that's not a sane comment, it's not a sane conclusion. And yet, today, when the Muslim Brotherhood after 9/11 lashed out at Al-Qaeda, it was a matter of tactics, not overall or overarching goals, because the Muslim Brotherhood's overall objectives of imposing Sharia or Islamic law in the world are the same as the overall Al-Qaeda objectives. And yet, what did we do after 9/11 when the Muslim Brotherhood did that and said, Al-Qaeda, you were wrong because of, but we didn't worry about the because of. We just heard, oh, they're wrong. Oh, so these guys are against Al-Qaeda, so we can use them. They can be our friends. That was not only unprofessional, it was not sane. It's not rational, reasonable thought process. And so today we have the same thing. In Egypt, the military cracks down and overthrows President Morsi. So people who understand the threat, which obviously would not include our president, because he continues to defend the Muslim Brotherhood and support their activities in Egypt. I'm not even sure I have words to describe that, so maybe I'll just hold on that. But people who do understand, at least, that the Muslim Brotherhood is a threat, then again side with, oh, look, the Egyptian people are overthrowing the Muslim Brotherhood, this must be a good thing. And the military is overthrowing the Muslim Brotherhood, this must be a good thing. Well, in 2011, when we had the so-called Arab Spring, we said that was a good thing. And that gave us the jihadis in power, the Muslim Brotherhood in Egypt. And now they're being removed, and we're saying, well, this must be a good thing. And I think, for the purposes of discussion here today, the reason why we keep doing this is because we don't have a frickin' clue about what's going on. We do not understand the true nature of the Muslim Brotherhood. We do not understand the true nature in the Arab world and in the non-Arab Islamic world. And we don't understand what Islamic law and Sharia is. And when I say we, I mean the U.S. government's leadership. And because of that, the leading organizations in our government that local and state law enforcement look to. Local and state law enforcement then get bad information or no information. Although I would say my experience with local law enforcement is they're a lot more savvy on it than your average FBI agent. And then you have the American people.
Wait, John, wait. The local law enforcement is more savvy regarding the threat than FBI agents?
Let me explain. You call, and I've had dozens and dozens of state leaders, business leaders have discussions with FBI, whether they're FBI agents, whether they are FBI supervisors, or even more senior leaders. And there is a number approximating 0 is the level of understanding of who the Muslim Brotherhood is and what they're doing in this country by the average FBI agent. And it's not because they're bad agents. It's because all the training on this, and I don't want to go too far on the tangent, but they're not being taught this. And they don't understand that these Muslim Brotherhood entities are working at the international level with Al-Qaeda, with nation states, right down to the local Islamic center across the Islamic centers and Islamic societies and Muslim Students Associations and all the other organizations they have in the United States to further what they're doing. And so at the local level, as you know, Howie, local cops are, I always say, a Marine Lance Corporal and a local cop are the two most savvy people in the world. And, I ask police officers, how long does it take from the time you exit your vehicle to the time you start talking to somebody during a traffic stop that they're lying to you? Most cops will say it's between 3 and 4 seconds. I mean, that's the average police officer has an innate ability to cut through to what's actually going on. And so for years, since 9/11, they've been told one thing, and yet with their eyes and with their instincts, they're seeing something very different on the ground level. The leaders of the Islamic community in the United States are not helpful. They're not friendly. They are, in fact, Muslim brothers, and nearly all of them in the leadership of the Muslim community, the imams of the Islamic centers themselves, the Islamic Society. These are, we know from stuff you and I have talked about here on this show, that evidence in some of the largest terrorism trials in U.S. history have demonstrated that these organizations are Muslim Brotherhood fronts. So it doesn't take a cop long to be talking to an imam or to be looking and watching what's going on and to say, actually what the FBI is telling me is a load of crap. These people are not helpful, and the leaders are not helpful. These guys are jihadis. And so there are departments around the country that are doing a much better job on this threat than the FBI is, and many of them, when you get guys in senior leadership positions in the state and local police agencies that get this, I mean, they will absolutely cut the FBI out of cases, and they're doing that because they don't trust them, and which is, in and of itself, it's a problem.
Wait, John, wait. Trust in the FBI. You, Mr. John Guandolo, brought the counterterrorism training to the FBI referencing the threat of Islam and the Muslim Brotherhood. And that was just 15 years ago or say. Where's all that training? Where's all that, for anybody who's newly listening? You're the one who originated. You birthed it. You were brought out of the Marines to bring this forward. And you're saying today that the FBI is actually being turned away by local agencies because of their lack of knowledge to the threat?
Here's what I'm saying is good police officers who see what's going on will get the job done no matter what it takes. And if it means they cut the FBI off, I'll give you a couple examples. First, with regard to the training, the first time I ran the training, specifically on the Muslim Brotherhood movement and Islamic law, Sharia in the United States, was in 2006. That was the first time, it was the first training that had ever been done in the government, specifically on those issues, specifically training intelligence professionals, law enforcement at the federal, state, and local level. From across the country, we brought in people from the JTTFs from 10 different cities. We had NSA, CIA, FBI. National Joint Terrorism Task Force, all these folks. That was a 2-week program. We were able to run that twice, and then it was shut down, and they didn't want it run anymore because the Muslim community was offended that we were doing this, and they were meeting with the senior leaders of the FBI at the time, and yet nobody could show us where what we were putting out was factually incorrect. So let's just start there. So that training program hasn't been run since 2007, which was when the second one was run with another police agency, hosted by another U.S. police agency in the D.C. area. So since that time, there were some agents that I was able to train that began teaching and training police agencies and inside the FBI. And as of about 14 months ago, all of those efforts have been shut down by the FBI director because the Muslim community finds them offensive. And so just think about what that means. The FBI shuts down training because someone in the community finds it offensive, despite the fact that it's factually correct, what's being taught. But that's where we are. So how do local and state folks respond? I'll give you an example. There are a number, when I say a number, over 24 jihadi training camps here in the United States. And as we've spoken about on your show, when the FBI raided the home of a senior Hamas and Muslim Brotherhood leader in the United States in 2004 in Annandale, Virginia, a guy named Ismail el-Barassi, one of the things they found was a cassette recording of a senior Muslim brother in the United States speaking to a group of Muslim brothers in 1981 in Missouri. And it was an absolute gold mine of a find. And the reason it was is because if you listen, he not only lays out how the Muslim Brotherhood came to the United States, setting up the Muslim Students Associations, laying out how they organized as young students, and then as they started graduating, how they started kind of moving forward. But three things that are absolutely key that are revealed in this discussion, which was then, of course, translated and officially entered as evidence in the Holy Land Foundation trial, which your listeners probably know was the largest Hamas and terrorism financing trial in U.S. history. And this discussion, the speech this guy gave, and the Q&A, the question and answer afterwards, revealed three really important things. One, besides that the Muslim Brotherhood is here in the United States, which I think most people are starting to understand, is that the Muslim Brotherhood has an internal security apparatus that secures them from outside threats. And specifically, he mentions CIA, FBI, and having people in place to know if they're looking at the Brotherhood or not. So that's really an intelligence operation. And I think since the Muslim Brotherhood has leaders inside our government at DHS, FBI, CIA, NSA, DIA, it's safe to say they have access to all of our classified systems. And as a matter of fact, all the guys that I'm aware of inside those organizations have secret or top secret clearances, and they're Muslim brothers. So they have access to our systems, and so they can obviously ensure that they have a good understanding of how we are or are not looking at them. So that's the first thing. They have the Muslim Brotherhood in the United States has an internal security system. Two, the special section, the military wing of the Muslim Brotherhood, exists in the United States. Those are the guys that do assassinations, bombings, kidnapping. So that exists here, but that's of course they do, because anywhere the Muslim Brotherhood exists, their full structure exists, and that includes their military wing. And finally, that in 1981, they were discussing openly the jihadi training camps in the United States. That's 30-plus years ago.